Welcome to the Building Doors Podcast, where we're not just pushing for opportunities for women's voices to be heard, we're creating them. I'm Christy Harst, voiceover actor and creator of the Building Doors campaign. Join us as we amplify voices, break barriers, and build doors together. Welcome to the Building Doors Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Harst, and today we're chatting with unicorn, Joanna Katcher. More on that later. Joanna is a Los Angeles-based creative director, film composer, music producer, and mixer. She is the founder and creative director of Nice Manners, a boutique mix and music productions post-housed in LA that specializes in audio for commercials, films, TV shows, agencies, networks, recording artists, and video games. That's a lot. Over more than a decade, she has mixed and composed thousands of pieces. I just want to stop right now in the intro and say She has mixed and composed thousands of pieces, including writing the theme for an Emmy-winning show, What's Up? And contributing to award-winning projects. Katcher's work is known for its unconventional and creative approach. And she also co-hosts podcasts and comedy events while producing music under her own name. Welcome, Joanna Katcher!
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Oh my God. I was like, wow, Christy, you're so good at this. It's like you do it professionally. And I was like, oh yeah, she does. She sure does. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here. What an amazing invite. Thank you.
And I wanted to start off just by going back to that unicorn statement because
if you must.
Yes, Joanna is a unicorn. And here's why. Most of you know who are listening, I'm a voiceover actor, and I was fortunate enough to be booked on a gig where I logged on to a live session with video, and I saw Joanna, and I was like, oh, she must be like the copywriter or she's the producer or something. No, friends, she was the audio engineer. And when I learned that, I immediately said to her, oh my gosh, you're the audio engineer? You're a woman. You're like a unicorn. I never see you out in the wild. And, she laughed and we got to talking, and I literally invited her to be on the podcast in my session, which probably wasn't the best professionally, but I was just so excited to see a woman. And so I'm curious to know, I know I probably didn't have the best reaction to seeing you, but do you get reactions like that?
I'm sorry. That's where you're wrong. You had an amazing reaction to see me. Never once have I been invited to be to be interviewed whilst in the middle of a session. I can guarantee you that, Christy Harst. So
Yeah,
it
sorry.
was pretty great. It was pretty sweet. I do. Well, so the thing is, what I'm noticing, like, because I lived in New York, I was working there, and I lived in LA, and I'm meeting so many more like female identifying engineers and music makers and creative people. But I do think that's definitely changed over, the past decade or so. And I don't know, I don't know how much the state of the world and visibility has to do with it. I think a lot. But there are a ton out here. And I think it's also like within my community, so and so knows so and so. And it's like, oh, I will say for a long time, people were like, oh my God, Joanna, I have a friend. You were going to get along with her so well. And I was like, oh my God, great. Turns out she's queer. That's the only thing we have in common. You know what I mean? Like that would be the only thing. And so I was like, okay. And that would sort of start to happen like more as I came to LA, except when that happened in LA, it was like she was a post mixer or a composer or an audio engineer or something. And so like that was fucking awesome because that was something that we actually might have in common other than just who we're interested in. You know what I'm saying, Christy?
I do. And, I've been doing voiceover for 20 years, 12 years full time, and I've only encountered one other audio engineer on one of my jobs. So for you,
female audio
right?
engineer?
Yeah,
Oh,
for
shit.
you in your world, right? In your industry,
Wow.
you can identify the other women. But to me, in my world, I've only interacted with you and one other person.
I think film scoring and music production, I think that there are a lot more like female identifying people in that specific field. Whereas like Nice Manners and what I do, a lot of it is audio post production, specifically in audio engineering and sound design.
Mhm.
And I find that to be a much more niche, for whatever reason, field. And therefore, it's like there are a lot fewer of us, you know?
Mm.
Um, so when someone's like actually, in fact, I met someone at a party last year, and we've been in touch like constantly because she works at a really great post house here in LA. And I was like, well, you're a woman. Can we talk? Okay. And she's just like, I've never met one of you. So like, when we find one, we bring them, we hang on to them. To your point. So there's not that many, but I think there are a lot more um in the sort of like in the music production creation field, which is so fucking awesome, which I'm so happy to see. But it would be cool to see more of us, in the audio post field as well. I don't even know if I
Yes.
answered your question, Christy. I'm sorry.
No, you did. You did. You totally did. Before I started to press record, we were chatting and you were about to say something and you go, "Do you want me to save this for when recording?" I was like,
Oh,
"Yes, go
oh.
ahead."
Well, you were being really gracious about me basically giving you radio silence on a couple of your emails, and I was like, "Oh, it was a holiday." And basically, what happened is that someone close to me passed away. Who was I first met her when I was 18 years old, starting to play lacrosse for my college, and she was the lacrosse coach, and she taught me how to play. But what she did was she was the first time it was the first time that I'd ever met like a feminist or ever even heard that word or understood what it means. I keep cutting out. I'm sorry, I think.
That's okay.
But understanding like what that means and how important it is, especially when people think it's different or you don't want to perpetuate, sayings or stereotypes. And I mean, she was a Division 1 coach at Rhode Island, and other places around the nation, and she was being the exact same way. And this was like in the 70s when that was, you know, people were like, no, I think we're good on that. We don't really need to hear about that. But the first year I played lacrosse, it was a club team. And the second year, she through Title IX was like, we should have all of the same ability and we should be considered a varsity team and whatever. She got us funding and status and all that stuff. But that was her. And that was like the tiny drop in the bucket as far as what she did for women who were playing sports, who were in any profession, and she is like and she was such a beacon of light. And I learned so much from her. I mean, she wouldn't even let us say like when we were playing a game, lots of times, like if somebody's coming up behind you and you have the ball and you can't see them, you'll be like, man on, man on. You'll yell man on. So like your teammate will say it because they can see it and they'll like alert you to the fact that someone's coming on. She didn't let us say that even. She didn't even let us say man on because she was like, that's just perpetuating a truly masculine and maternal sort of like stereotypes. So we said a different word instead. And like, she would never let us say you guys. It was never
I
ladies.
love
It was
it.
women. It was just like, and it was, I mean, we were 18. We were like, okay, this is like a little weird, like we were not into it, but it stayed with me my whole life. And it makes me, it's informed a lot for me. And I think that has a lot to do with like getting to getting being able to have a career in this, and being able to believe like that I can do it, that I should be doing it, despite the fact that, what your entire podcast is based around, that like there are so few of us. And it's not because we can't do it. You know what I mean? It's just we don't have that same opportunity.
How amazing is it that your mentor laid the groundwork, even subconsciously, for you to know your worth and to be able to stand up um, in that worth? Because I think, too, as kids and even in college, we get told certain things that we kind of brush off, but then they stick with us in that little post-it note Rolodex in our mind. And as
Yeah.
adults, we start to go through things and they come back up. And so, how did that experience with your coach affect or contribute to your mindset when you decided to start your own business and be a female audio engineer and have this business?
I mean, I think at that point it was pretty subconscious. I think it was just kind of woven into my DNA. I wasn't thinking about it like, what would Beth do? But it was just like, that was just part of who I was at that time. Like, she made such a massive impact. It was in there. Um, And honestly, the main thing that led me to starting my own business was that I was working for a company in New York, and through that company, I had been, doing audio post in New York for like 6 years or something before I started my own company. So like from 2006 to 2011 or 2005 to 2000, something like that. Um, and I wound up in a post production place. They did editorial and they did audio, and I was the only audio person. And I started bringing clients in, and I was getting a percentage of that. And I was sort of like, I made an assumption that those clients would be treated well by the people at that company. And they wouldn't be, I had a lot of bad experiences accounting wise, where the clients that I brought in were super duper nickel and dimed for stuff that they didn't even know that they were going to be charged for. It was just a lot of like hidden, well, you did this. And like they would try to bill back, like lunches and stuff like that. And there was finally a sort of a breaking point where someone who I had personally been working with for like 10 years at that point was like, called me on the side and they were like, hey, I just got this like weird thing. And I walked into my boss's office and I was like, hey, my client said that this happened. And he was like, oh, yeah, we do that. And I was like, here's the thing. I
Here's the thing, George.
the thing about that. I bet that I could do this without you. I bet I could treat my clients fairly. I bet I could be honest with them. I bet that I could work with them and not be penalized for working. I mean, the amount of times that they were like, okay, you're working too fast. Like, if you work this fast, they're going to think that they can get more work out of you for less amount of money. And my thinking was like, I think that what they're going to think is really efficient. I'm really efficient and they're going to want to work with me and we're having a nice time. And over the long run, it's going to be really mutually beneficial because we have a client for forever. But it felt like they were cheating. And I mean, there is there was a lot of that stuff and I was just like, there was no transparency and it was just a bummer. And so then I was like, okay, I think I can do this on my own. And I think probably, having Beth, is her name, as an important person in my life who kind of laid that foundation, that was like, you can do anything you want. You don't have to, you know, you're absolutely like, you're smart. You can do this. My folks also like huge, 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 huge. But Beth was top of mind because she had, just passed away and we're talking about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's probably, it was just part, like kind of like the DNA of the next step of starting the company.
So let's get into some juicy story time.
Oh God.
I know you have them. I know you have them. I have talked to male audio engineers who've been very candid with me about sometimes they'll be in a room with a client and they'll be going over the voiceover auditions, trying to choose, and they have shared discussions with me about why a woman
Yeah.
is not chosen, or if a woman is chosen, the comments made about, some of those deliveries, pretty disparaging. Like, oh, she sounds like a 1-900, number. Like, we don't want 1-900, like that crass, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, and let me just back it up even more. An audio engineer that I had a conversation with last year told me that he had gone to an industry conference with Veritonic. I don't know if you know who Veritonic is.
Mm-mm.
Veritonic is an audio data collection company. Some of their top
Okay.
clients are Pandora, and so they analyze voices, right? And so they have
Mm,
this conference every year. He went to it, and at this conference, every year they release the results of a big study that they do on their own, right?
okay.
And so this study a couple years ago was, what is the avatar? What is the voice that everyone across the board wants to hear from? That is the most engaging, that has the most recall after they listen, that doesn't feel intimidating, all that good stuff. And it was a Black woman's voice.
Hmm.
And so he was sitting in a room with clients and they were going over the script, they were going over auditions, and they couldn't decide whether to make it a man or a woman. And so he piped up fresh back from the conference and said, hey, did you know, based on this study, that Black women's voices are the voices that are most liked by the public? and provide the most callback and retention and blah, blah, blah. They ended up hiring a Black woman because of his comment. And so there's many layers to this question, but one, do you have any stories of those kind of conversations? Maybe not so much the positive ones, but maybe the not so nice ones, and you don't have to share names or anything. But then
Mhm.
also, don't you think that where you sit, you hold a lot of power? You have more influence than maybe most people think. And I kind of am saying that for my voiceover folks. All right, sorry, I'll stop talking. Go.
No, not at all. I'm gonna answer your the most recent question first. I like yes and no. No, because I don't do a ton of I work super remotely and I don't do a ton of casting typically.
Okay.
Um, but I will say that these 4 walls are not unlike the walls of a therapist's office. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, like,
Uh-huh.
when someone's in here and it's whether it's a director or a producer and we're getting into the final mix, the fucking stories that I hear about if whether I'm working on a comedy special, it's like, "Oh, this fucking room, this usually kills, and then this woman said this thing and blah, blah, blah." Or like but I mean, it's like people especially when I was working in offices, people would just come in because they thought the room was soundproof, which it wasn't, um, and just talk to me about whatever was going on. So there was always like hot, juicy office gossip, like it's just like, um, but yeah, I feel like sometimes the audio engineer is kind of like the quiet,
Yes, always. Always. The quiet,
they're
they just sit. Yeah.
they're like sort of the quiet, they're like the kind of like sleeper, like CIA agent where you're just like, you you're
Yes.
just like and then finally, like, someone will be like, "Well, I don't know, you're the professional," and they don't really know what that means. Like, they know that I'm, like, pushing buttons, but they don't know what I'm a professional at, really. Like, do I know how a voice should sound? Do I know what we're trying to get at in the crux of this commercial? And you can make a comment that will change the trajectory of, like, whatever spot they're working on or whatever, and they're like, "Huh, no, that's really good." And you're like, "Is it? Because I'm pretty sure I just said what I said the first, I mean, it's like, it's that same thing where you say something, you say something, and then they say it, and they're like, "I've got an idea," and you're like, "That's a fucking brilliant idea,"
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
Mhm.
So in that sense, I think that there is a lot of sway, but usually once the talent's already locked. In your case, that's rare. I'm not usually like recording, I was recorded all the auditions and then, you won the job obviously and stuff. But I haven't done that in so long just because of the way that like the industry has changed for me. And so much of that is in-house typically with, agency in-house people or network people and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but once we're to the point of kind of like getting into the nitty-gritty of the spot or like what do you think it should be saying or how do you think this person should be, you know emoting or whatever, there's a lot of flex usually on that. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this out loud. But
Well, you directed me. You directed me.
I think, and that's the thing, because I think that's true. I mean, yeah, I guess I have been doing it for since 2010 or 20, I think 2010 is when I started Nice Manners, 2011. And I will say that the reason that I feel comfortable doing that is because one of my very first clients, um, and I will say the name of the agency because they're fantastic. They're called the Watsons. They're out of New York. Um, and one of their creative directors and it was one of those people who I really struck up a great relationship with at that post house I mentioned earlier. And she gave me a super long leash. Like she was just like, what do you think? And I think it was just sort of like a mutual understanding and respect. And she just kind of decided that she was going to trust my thoughts and opinions, And that was where I was like, oh, well, I can do this. I have room to do this. And a woman is a person who gave me that room at first to like kind of try that out.
Shocker.
Yeah, big fucking
Shocker.
shocker. Yeah, she held space, which is crazy. Um, but so I think that was really cool too. And also she was like, you know what? Why don't you jump in the booth real quick? I think you could do so. Just get in there and just kind of riff around. And so, like, she gave me my first opportunity to do voiceover work for some radio spots. And so, but I guess, like, yeah, all that to say, women have kind of like let me know that I can take up that space.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I've been told like that my sound design is too girly. Gotten that.
Hold up,
Um,
hold up. Time out, time out, time out.
yeah, yeah.
sound
Well,
design is too girly. Can you, like,
yeah,
tell me what that means?
I can. This was in 2009. I was working at a big post house in New York, um, and a big music house first, and they had just opened a post division. And so the owner didn't have a ton of experience in post, but was just like had a lot to say about pretty much everything, regardless of if he knew about it or not, which is quite rare, I'm sure, that you'll encounter.
Mm.
Anyway, so we were working on a spot. I think it was for like GMC or like Budweiser or
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
shit, you know,
Yeah.
which is like great, you know. But I did some sound design and he was just like, it's too girly, do it again. No, it's too girly, do it again. And what he meant to say was, can you put a rise up and then when it drops down, we hit, you know, like he didn't have the words to say. So he just kind of like
Oh,
fell back on the misogyny that he was taught. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
yeah. So, I mean,
This
there's
is
been
so
like
in
sort of like all different shades of that kind of, but honestly, that didn't last long. And if I could go back now, I would have been like, do you want to try again? Do you want to try to
mm,
explain what you need again? You know,
mm,
I really do think that the fact that I've had such strong women in my life, Beth and the executive from the Watsons, my mom, my sister,
mm.
it, you know, if I feel that push, I will say something. I'll feel empowered to say something. But so many people don't like, they don't feel empowered to say it, you know? And most recently, honestly, my partner, who is a dream in so many ways. I was bidding on a project and I'm always kind of like, I mean, I want to like cut him a deal and I want to make it most cost effective. And they were like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? And I was like, I don't know. I guess because I want them to come back and work with me again. And they were like, how about this? Why don't you try bidding this job as a cis white male and see how it goes? Just
A
try.
m a mediocre white man, yeah, do that.
I was like, oh God, you know? And I sent out the bid and I was just like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
I got,
Yeah,
I got the job. No questions asked. No questions asked. I was like, oh, okay. So basically, like, I've just been like told, generally speaking, societally, that like I should be super, super grateful, which I am, by the way, for every piece of work that I get, but that I shouldn't be, you know, I should just be like cutting deals and doing the best that I can and like not doing the best that I can, but like not 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 billing for what I'm worth, essentially, you know? And that changed my entire trajectory. It was like mind blowing, honestly, which I feel kind of embarrassing to say because I think there's a lot of women in this profession who are like, "Oh yeah, I learned that years ago," but I didn't, and I'm so glad that I did now. You know?
but Joanna, you're not alone at all. There are women in voiceover, I think just any freelancer in general, even if you're not in the creative industry, who struggle
Mhm.
with that moment of, "Do I quote this or do I quote that?
Yeah,
Do I say this or do I say that?" And we
yeah,
all have that moment after we press send, we're like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what did I just do?"
yeah,
And so I think your story, for those listening and watching, is encouraging, that we really need to sit in our worth and say, and even if it feels better, because I feel like information is power, if you do some research and see what other people in your industry, men, are charging. And sometimes you might know said men and
yeah,
know that your product is better or have confidence in your, you've said, oh, my stuff's so much better than that person's, right?
yeah,
And so I think your story really resonates with anyone who's ever been, excuse me, in a position to quote someone or to pitch someone,
yeah.
and how different it can be once you kind of lean into that, right?
It is, yeah, and it's funny because I felt like I was always I have had friends of mine tell me like, you like you really you have your shit together. You really, you know, and I think that probably just because there's like a facade and like a mask and like maybe I just want people to think I have my shit together. And to a certain extent, I do in certain ways, and to a certain extent, I'm a fucking mess like all everybody
We
else,
all,
you
yeah,
know?
we all do. Yeah.
You know, so like, can I swear? Can I swear on this?
Yeah, you can. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's absolutely fine.
Yeah. And so you know, and I would kind of I think I would pride myself in the way that I ran my business and all that stuff. And then like basically to just sort of like have like a like coming out of the matrix moment where you're like, you haven't even been close like bidding wise. You're not even close. Like, let's, you've spent this last chunk of time not even being close. Like, it's time to get in there because you are now, you have this much experience, you have all this stuff under your belt. You should be doing this. And there's no one to like tell you that. You just have to listen to your podcast or have a partner who's like, maybe this, or be lucky enough to have, somebody saying that in your ear, just like your podcast is so awesome. Um, but yes, please bid higher than you think you should. I can't think of a situation where where that doesn't relate or isn't like, it's just, it's crazy. Especially how you say it. You're like, this is how it should be. That's really, the delivery is everything. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're right. The delivery is everything. I have a question. So
Yeah.
why aren't there more women in audio engineering? And so I'm going to share a quick story. I may
Yeah.
have shared it on another episode, but I was speaking with someone. He's the creative director at Sportsnet, which is the #1 broadcasting communication company in Canada. And we were chatting about gender equality. And he said, Christy, for me, it's not that I don't try. I do. For example, we we posted a position online for something to do with audio engineering, right? And we had 400 people apply, and of those 400, 2 were women.
Jesus
And
Christ.
of the 2 women, one of them made it to the final round. And he said, so for me, a well-intended leader and man in my industry and in my company, I want to hire more women, but
Right.
there's not a pool to go to. They only had
Yeah.
2 out of 400. And
Yeah.
so then I told him, this is what I said, and I don't know if I'm right, but I said to him, you know why? Because there's not enough audio engineers going into high schools and colleges that are female saying, you can do this. This is what I do. There's not enough stories being told about women in this industry to showcase that this is something that girls, just like we did that push with STEM with girls, there's this big push
Yes.
in the
Which
media
is
and which is
incredible.
incredible, right? And
Yes. Yes.
recently I saw this post where it said that kindergartners 2 years ago were asked to draw doctors, and over half of them drew women, where that
Of
wouldn't have
course.
been the case,
Oh,
right?
oh, I just said of course before I even knew. I thought you were gonna be like, they're all white men. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
incredible.
Right. So, but years
Incredible.
past, that wouldn't have been it, right? Like years
Right.
past, that wouldn't have been the case. And so, yes, we're making strides in awareness and visibility, but the few women that are in audio engineering are not being shown as heroes. We're not telling their stories. We're not showing little girls and young women in high school and college that this is a viable option for you if you're passionate about this type of work. And
Right.
so my question to you is, what do you wish more young women who might be interested or maybe even just dabbling in the audio fields knew about your profession?
That's a great question. I mean, I also, I will answer that. And I also can't stop thinking about like your question, which is why aren't there more, women in the industry and
Yes,
stuff?
please. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, I mean, I want to acknowledge there's a lot of privilege, in having an education to understand that this is very niche career exists. um like you have to be in a place where you can have access to people who are giving you that information,
Mm,
like there can be a million women at a high school saying all that, but if you don't get to go there, then you don't get it, you don't get to see it, you know what I mean? So
preach.
like I think like there's, I mean, if we like peel back the onion, it's just like more money to more underprivileged kids in need to get them to education, at all,
Right.
um, and then within those programs, yeah, I mean, having people come speak, and also just like straight up having, like including that if you're going to go to a trade school, like car, HVAC, audio engineering, you know what I mean? Like, or any of those, fucking accounting, like literally someone teach me how to balance my checkbook when I'm 10
Okay. Do
or
my
15.
taxes. How do I do my taxes?
Like just like give me a skill that's like useful. And it's hard because like I think I like sit in this room and I'm so like fucking lucky to be here. First of all, I'm white, and that's,
Yep. Right there. You said it.
that's,
That's a
I'm white,
huge door.
I'm
Yeah.
white.
Yeah. Yep.
And people are like, oh, you're queer, okay, yes, let's get you in there. Like, it's a very, I will say,
What I like when you did this, "Let's get you in
well,
there."
yeah, but you know what I mean?
I
Like,
love it.
because, like, for whatever reason, I mean, for whatever reason, there's so many reasons, but now I like, there's like an entity or like a group where it's like, oh, you're queer, okay, we want you because it's gonna make us look good because we hired like a queer person, and
Oh,
like,
it's a
you know,
checkbox.
it's like a little tokenism, but I'm also like, I used to be like, I don't want to be part of a women's composition group. I don't want to be part of this because I want to be hired because I'm the best no matter what. And then it's like, okay, well, let's just talk a little bit about community and whose shoulders you're standing on, guy, you know? So like I had to like ride my high horse right out of
Yeah.
there to sort of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
which
Live
it
and
was
learn.
really, it's quite embarrassing to think about. I'm just like, no, no, thank you. I don't want your help. I'm all set, actually. Good. Thanks a lot. Don't you? But yeah, I think I just, what pops into my mind when you're like, what, it was a question like, what do I wish someone had told me, or what do I wish was available? Can you say it again?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
like, if yeah, what would you wish like, how number 1, looking back on your experience, what would have made your path easier to get to where you are today?
Yeah.
For example, if someone had visited your school, if there were tools and resources, and also, is that the reason why that guy only had 2 women apply out of 400? Like, what
No, no, of course not. It's the same reason that like, ugh, God, I don't want to get into a whole, but it's just like, why why are why are like POC and trans POC paid like so much less, and we can't find any to work for us? It's because they're not as good. Oh, actually, it's because they were not given the opportunity. They're having to like claw their way back into the main. It's the and like the plight of the audio engineer doesn't even like come close, if I may.
I
But
know, I know.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it's
I do.
there's just I think societally, women are coming out of this phase of being like taught to like be quiet,
Yep.
and audio engineers, you're sitting and you're in control of something. People fucking rely on you to make important decisions and to make them sound good. And that's a man's job, baby. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's like, I think that generally is just like, and that's what everybody's seen. So it's like this like chicken and egg thing. But what I would have wanted is, when I was lucky enough to go to college and had a job fair, it was like you could work for this accounting firm or this business firm, or like this, basically any of these like hard sciences or whatever. I was a music major. I walked down there, I was like, okay, there's no fucking table for me down here. I don't know what I can do with a music degree, but you're offering it to me, but not telling me what I
Mm.
can do with it. So like, where's the fault? I mean, but yeah, to your point, I think if there's more people that are visible and doing stuff and living a life that's comfy for them, whatever that means, and they're women or they identify as women, or frankly they're just not cis men, that's huge. Just having that representation would be awesome. um it's I say that with the caveat of like, other representation is really, 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 I think, in my mind, more important right now. But like
Sure, sure,
this,
sure, sure, sure.
but it's the same, it's a similar vibe on, it's their shoulders on which I'm standing to do this job. um
Exactly.
I
That's
don't
a great
know.
story, though, because you're right. I think about my job fair
Yeah.
at college, and it didn't include stuff for what I was majoring in, not at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there has to be a collective decision made, and unfortunately, those decisions are made by middle-aged white men in positions of power, and so
That's correct.
they don't
Yeah.
see the need to make sure that we go to an all-girls school or make sure that we have a woman behind the desk or behind the table at the job fair. And so there's just so much, this conversation is really enlightening me about just how much work still needs to be done. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah. Me too.
we need more of you, especially as I can speak just from my experience as a female voice actor. Um, I've never been in your shoes as the person in control in that room. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to have a really bad client talking to me a certain way before the voiceover talent logs in. And now it's my job to communicate to the voiceover talent. And I'm feeling pressure from this nasty client because they just talked to me a certain way. And so then I inadvertently say nasty things to the voiceover actor. And then now I feel as the voice,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I
it's
don't know what
brutal.
it's like.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what it's like to be in that position. So I think for men but as a woman, I can say, if there's a woman audio engineer, I look to her. My energy is, please tell me I'm doing okay. Please tell me that please just say it gently, please, like this is this, because I feel like a sense of camaraderie instantly if there is a woman in the room. And that might be just because of me, of who I am. But there have been often times where there's been a man in the room and they don't speak to me very kindly. And I do try to take a step back and say, well, maybe there's something going on in the room I don't know about, right?
Well, that's really, really kind of you, Christy. I mean, like that shows like a level of emotional development on your part that really doesn't exist, I think, in a lot of people, where you're
Oh,
like, oh, someone just really took a shit on me. I wonder how they're doing. You know what I
man.
mean? But that helps you get through your day because you're like, oh,
Correct.
okay. And it's really brilliant. And I mean, you're gonna go far. Just kidding. Obviously you are. But I did have one thought, Jesus Christ, and now it's gone. Um, you were talking about a man in the room talking shittily to you. I had an interesting thing happen, which it really hasn't happened a lot in my career. I haven't often felt like, oh, you're a woman, well, let's see what you can do. I think also part of that is because of the way that I look. I have short hair. I talk loudly and assertively, and I think people are like, oh, okay, this is a
Don't mess
lesbian,
with
right?
her.
She's like, if you like, whatever you want to call it, it's like, wow, she's really butch, or she probably knows stuff because lesbians know how to do stuff. I mean, it's all like, I can like pontificate for day and like hypothesize for days. You know what I mean? But like,
God.
if I came in here and I had beautiful blonde hair like someone in this interview, if I had a
Ah!
beautiful face like someone in this interview,
Well, thank
and
you.
I was like, okay, let's do that. Unfortunately, I can almost guarantee I would be treated differently. I've seen it. You know what I mean? Like I went to grad school in New York, and I had a friend of mine who presented a more feminine than I do.
Sure.
And her experience was quite different than mine, I think. And I don't, there are a million variables and we could try to dissect it, but like it's a real Occam's razor type, it's probably like, but it might be that. It just might be that. Um anyway, all that being said, I was working on a podcast like last year, with a company with whom I've worked on, I don't know, like 10 or 12 podcasts at this point. I'd worked with these producers a ton. They're fucking awesome. And there was a new producer who they had brought in, and they did a kickoff call. And so there were the four of us, and this one producer was like, so, and the kickoff call was just like, hey, how you doing? It's nice to meet you. Like everybody's just trying to establish sort of like a touchdown so we can go forward and whatever. And he was like, so tell me, what's your process? And this is a producer who I looked up because he kept mentioning, he's like, I've done a lot of short films, and I'm just interested to know kind of what your process is. And I was like, oh, well, okay, this is typically how I do it. And podcasts, I usually work from the end. He goes, I do that too. That's great. Yeah. And what are you doing sort of like compression wise there? And I was like, I mean, it really depends on so we just kind of it was a very like awkward. And the other two producers who are kind of friends of mine were like,
He's checking you. He's totally checking you.
totally. And I was like, at a certain point, I was like, do you want me to, I just want to make sure, like, do you want me to tell you like exactly like how I would do this? I'm happy to. Do you want to do that offline so we're not wasting everyone's fucking time? Or, um, and like, I've been doing it for 17 years now, and I was like, my guy, if there's an expert here, it's not you, friend.
Right.
But also you're hiring me, so I'm going to answer any questions you have with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing ends. I get an email from the other two producers immediately. They're like,
They
I'm
clocked him.
so sorry.
Yeah, they clocked
Um,
him.
that's not going to be, it's not going to happen again, whatever. That season of that podcast was it was like the worst job I'd ever worked on because of this one producer. I mean, he would like go through, it was maybe like a 40-minute podcast, and he had like 250 notes, and they were like, I mean, I don't even know where to start. It wasn't notes like, pull this word out, or, can we pop this up? And it's like, I hear a micro breath here. I'd like to see what we can do about that, which I'm not saying that like those notes are.
Not a micro breath. Not a micro breath.
Yeah, I think it's important sometimes to hear a person breathe when they speak to make it more natural sounding. It was just, anyway, so this dude, yeah, he ultimately got fired, which was the most
Oh,
delightful thing on the planet,
okay.
because I wasn't the only person. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a really blatant, like, what's your deal? Oh, Christy, fucking A. The whole point is that he wrote me afterward, and he goes, thanks for
Time
talking.
out. After he got fired?
No.
After the meeting. After the
After the
meeting.
meeting,
Okay,
after the
okay, okay.
meeting. So basically, it wasn't negative. He just said, "Hey, Joanna, thanks for answering my questions. It's just something I like to do to understand if the person I'm working with has the prowess that they've been touted to have, basically. Essentially, like, I've been told you're good, but like, let me take a run at you, kind of a thing.
How
Um,
arrogant.
oh my God, such a prick, such a prick. But God bless, you're doing something else that you're probably good at. You weren't good at this. But yeah, and it's rare, but it does it does happen. And sometimes it will even happen with my pals, and I have to be like, I've been doing this for longer than you, right? And they're like, no. I'm like, would you explain it to Mike that way? And they're like, well,
But isn't it a shame that that's what we have to do? We have to educate. It's constant. And sometimes you just get exhausted about it.
I mean, my dude friends, that's a lot of them. Not a lot of them, some of them, that's how they're socialized. And some of them do a lot of work to undo that.
And that's
And
good.
it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And some of them, I think, like all of us can revert to a certain, like, less mature state when we're stressed, or when we're this or that,
Ab-
we're not like our best
Absolute.
self,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know? So
Absolutely.
I mean, I love them, and they are doing a great job, but I have no problem calling it on it. And they're like, oh, fuck. And that's why we're friends.
So I have an interesting, I'm just gonna. It's not necessary. Well, I'm just gonna tell an interesting little tidbit. So my
Go
daughter, she
ahead.
plays flag football and golf, two male-dominated sports. She's pretty good at both of them. And so we were at her golf. We live in Cleveland, Ohio. It's snowy, and so the only place you can play golf is at this place called the Golf Dome. It's the only indoor place, around. We drive 40 minutes one way to get there, and so she's at her lesson. She's been going there for like on and off for like 2 years. And so
Yeah.
she's in this academy, right? So it's a week. It's you go there all the time. You see the instructors. They meet with you. They teach you. Her name, her name is Lucero. It means illuminated, one who is light. I thought it was a beautiful name, and
Hey,
so it is also of Hispanic origin, which my husband is. And so I was like, oh, great. So her name is Lucero, and this man kept on calling her Lucero, and so I
that's
corrected
a
him.
very Italian pronunciation. I'm Italian.
Okay. All right, great. So, he's not Italian, but what I'm saying is
He's not Italian.
he's not Italian. So he said, when I corrected him, he goes, "You know what? I'm just never gonna get it right. I'm just never gonna get it right."
Oh,
And
for fuck.
in my mind, I was like, number one, I pay a crap ton of money to send her here.
That's right.
Number two, you've known my daughter for over 2 years. You've known her for over 2 years, off and on. She comes here and you help her. And number three, how dare you say I just can't get it? That's someone's name, dude. It's someone's name. I'm sorry, I said dude. To upgrade it to
Oh, no,
today's
it's fine.
terms, it would
It's
be
fine.
bruh. Bruh.
I feel like dude drops in that. I'm sorry. And I think I might have misunderstood. Are you saying Lucero is your daughter's name?
Yes,
I'm so sorry. I thought in the story it was like one of the instructors' names. That's why I was like, oh,
I
maybe.
apologize.
I apologize, because I was like, oh, it's the Italian pronunciation. You probably understood. Yeah,
Yeah, that's my daughter's name, right? And
it's
so
it's a beautiful name.
this guy was saying Lucero, and he not Italian.
No,
And he was just like, when I corrected him, he's like, I'm just never gonna get it. It's almost like you're not gonna try to get my daughter's name right. I give you guys a lot of
it's
money, right?
it's so dismissive.
And it's
What
so
did you call him
dismissive.
on it?
No, so I came home and I was talking to a friend because that instructor is not the only middle-aged white man who calls her Lucero.
Hmm.
And so there's more than one. All the kids get it right. All of her fellow golfers get it right.
That's
The
right.
the teenage boys who help, they get it right.
Yeah.
Many of her coaches, other coaches outside of that facility get it right. And
Yeah.
so I think I'm going to pull aside, the top guy, the top guy, and just say, "Hey," because she has actually gotten in the car and said to me, "Mom, how do I correct them? I feel like I've let them go so long saying it the wrong way that it's kind of." And so she's 12, and so it's not her job to do that.
Oh,
So,
honey,
yeah.
not at all.
Anyways, my point in sharing that story is even today, even you just said that that story was few and far between. There are lots of moments like that that happen, and I think that they aren't as few as far between as we think. That's my
I
point in
think you're
sharing
right.
that story. So,
Yeah.
I want to
No, I
move
think you're
on
totally right.
I wanna move on to a little bit more voiceover specific questions.
Sure.
Um, what do you from the production perspective, what
Mhm.
do female voice actors need to know about advocating for themselves in a session? Like, what have you experienced? What moments do you think could have been different? Like, what do you think female voice actors need to know from your perspective? What do you wish more female actors would come in? Like, do you want them to come in with more confidence? Do you think that there have been moments where they could have advocated for themselves or their creative choices more, and how to do
Right.
that? Like those kind of things.
I think that once you're booked, the people who booked you trust you, and if you have something that you think will make it better, speak right up, and they will appreciate it. I think that,
Wow.
like, I think now this is me saying, also read the room. You know what I mean? Like, if they're just like, "We only have 10 minutes, read the script, get the fuck out," whatever. But if it's like a job where, there's some room for, and they're kinda like hemming and hawing, and you're like, "Hey, why don't I treat it?" I mean, like, recording's free. We have endless amounts of digital tape. It's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And you could come up with something that they didn't even think of, and they'll be like, "Oh my
Mm.
god." And then all of a sudden they're like, "I want that person next time. They're thinking of stuff. They're easy to work with. It's fun." And, like, obviously being easy to work with is
Yeah.
everybody's number one. But I think that's so every almost every talent who gets in the door is so professional like you. It's like you're on time, you're easy to work with. You say yes, no problem, absolutely. Even if you think it's the worst idea ever, you'll do it, no problem. But yeah, you can absolutely feel free to suggest an idea. All they can say is like, "I don't think so." But, like, can you imagine being in a session, you're like, "I could try this." And they're like, "No." Like, why not? Then just roll the tape. I mean, that's what I see a lot of times. And a lot of those suggestions end up printed.
Wow, that is very good inside information because I don't think a lot of women especially, they're just grateful to have the job. They don't wanna mess it up,
100%. No,
right?
100%. And you already have the job. You have the fucking contract. You have the job. So, like, let the talent that got you in the door, elevate what you're doing. And like I said, obviously, you as a talent know better. You're the ones who are professional in this realm. So if, like, you're working with something and you're like, Jim's a real dickhead, so I'm not going to say anything. But if it's like someone else is in there and they're like, I don't know what to do, and you're like, oh my god, what about this? Maybe come with like a few ideas in your back pocket in case you need to pull them out.
So, the advertising landscape is changing drastically.
Mm,
Advertising agencies, brick and mortars are crumbling left and right.
mhm,
Um, More brands like Dick's, um, the Kansas City Chiefs, there's another one, are developing their own studios, their own creative studios to create their own brand content.
mm,
And they aren't looking to, distribute them via this or that, they're just gonna distribute them on their own. They want more
right,
control, and
right,
so, I also know that a lot of brands don't wanna pay the $350 an hour agency fee, so they are asking former creative directors that have quit or been laid off to form freelance teams, online, right? So, for freelancers in the creative space, that totally changes the game on how we network and how we get our voice out there. So
yeah.
my question to you is, and this is specifically for voice actors, but I think your advice could probably apply to other creatives. Do you think it is wise or it would behoove us to start networking and creating relationships with audio engineers? And
Absolutely.
okay, and if so,
Yes.
what is the best way to go about it? Because, Joanna, I speak face to face to brands to pitch building doors, and I spoke to the production arm of a very famous NFL team. And he said to me, Christy, I get over 100 emails from voice actors a week, and I don't answer a one of them
Yeah.
because they're all the same. So we don't want this to turn into that for audio engineers. So what is the best way? So you've said
Right.
yes. It's smart to reach out to audio engineers as voice actors. How do we do it tastefully?
Not on LinkedIn. Definitely not on
What?
LinkedIn.
What? What?
No.
What did she
No.
say? What did she say? No, you
Because
didn't. Do you understand
well,
that's what we're taught? What's going on,
I
Joanna?
know. Well, on LinkedIn, it's like so and so wants to connect, and it's like I don't fucking know this person, especially if there's no note. I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we and whatever. That could just be me as a human being. What resonates with me always
Okay,
is
okay,
if
okay, do it.
I get an email in my inbox. It's like, hey, I'm Christy Harst. I was looking for, female led
Sure.
engineers or whatever. I came across yours. I was curious if you just want to connect. Maybe we could help each other out. Just if you take like that extra time, which is a huge pain in the ass. And as a person who also has just been hustling for my entire career to make those connections in this way, you're just like, oh my god. But it pays dividends always, in my experience.
Okay.
If I think like a direct email, and don't like do that thing where you have an email and then you copy, you're like, I saw your website blank, I really liked blank, maybe we can do this because you worked on blank. Don't do it. Just be real. Just
Oh,
be
that's
real.
what everybody's doing.
I know it sucks, it fucking sucks, but I swear to god, if you are just like, here's my vibe, this is what I'm doing, I reached out, you seem cool, I looked at, like, I looked at your website, you know I, because I mean, if you get an email that's like, hey Christy, I like the work you did on blank, da 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 da, and then this like other specific, can't you tell immediately that that's like
Immediately.
a form and fill?
Immediately.
So like, why
Yeah.
would one do that?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm receiving, and I am practicing what I preach begrudgingly as well, because it's a lot more work. But I find like, I'm also 45, and I think like having just like being a little older, as my sister
Sure.
said, she was like, when you turn 40, you just don't care anymore. And so
You
here's how
don't.
that works.
Yeah.
So like, when I'm trying to connect with someone, I just am like, okay, this is who I am as a person. If you think my work speaks for itself, awesome. If you don't, then we're not meant to work together, which hopefully we can work together. But I've had a lot more success in that sort of like framework than I have in the banging out 30 emails, 50 emails a day with the
Oh my
copy swap.
gosh. You don't know what you just laid down. You really don't. You have no idea what you just laid down. And be prepared, girl, because you're gonna get lots of email.
Good. 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 That's awesome. Because what's cool is like a lot of voiceover people need reels made. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
sometimes you need your reels swapped. And it's like, who's gonna do that? Oh, maybe Joanna could do that for me real quick. Or,
Mhm.
like everyone, we can help one another out, and we want to help one another out if we actually make like a genuine connection with each
Mhm.
other.
So let me just I just have
That's
2
all I got.
questions on that. So, I'm honestly blown away by this whole section of this.
This is just my opinion, my whole
No,
opinion.
no, I understand.
But
There are some people who are very active on LinkedIn and some that aren't. So
totally,
I get it. I get
totally.
it. And it would behoove anybody, I think, to do both. Send something on
I
LinkedIn and
think
send
so.
via email. Why not? Right. So in that
Totally.
email, if somebody says, hi, I'm Christy Harst, and I have voiced for this campaign and this campaign and this campaign, and I'd love to
Right.
work with you. Is that a turnoff to you? Like when they start listing their resume? Are you more apt to answer somebody because they said they booked 6 national campaigns, or less because they don't?
I'm more apt to worked with someone if I like them, and then I'll look at their work and hope their work is good. And if it's not, I'll be like, fuck. But if their
Great,
work is good, I'm like, yes. But I wouldn't lead with it. I'd be like, I'm Christy. I saw your email. You seem like a person that I can vibe with. Like, this is my situation. Let me know if this works for you, or
great,
whatever.
great.
But yeah,
Yes,
that's
good. That is awesome information. You have no idea how much the voiceover community is going to love hearing that. So thank you very much.
that's all
Um,
I good. Yeah, good. I
if
hope it helps. I really
Yeah.
do.
Oh, trust me. Get your email ready. You'll see. Uh, I have 3 more questions for you.
Yeah.
And let's go through the first 2 kind of quickly. What
Okay.
gives you hope? What gives you hope when you look at the next generation of women in creative spaces? What gives you hope?
Strangely enough, my 17-year-old nephew. I know that's so weird, but I look at him as like a cis white boy, like a privileged kid, and the things that he says and the way that he looks at the world and how he, it's like when there's little kids, it's like my pronouns are they, okay, and then that's just what it is from then on, and
They don't
like
care.
the way no, and he's a curious person. I think that like the younger generation, there's a lot of curiosity that we didn't have and that they're being pushed to have, and the curiosity is what's gonna make change and be super, super helpful,
Oh, I love
honestly.
that answer. I love that answer. And you're right, the more young people I engage with when I go into schools to do workshops and stuff, you're right. There's a
Yeah,
totally different outlook there on what's different, you know?
yeah.
If a young woman told you, "Hi, Joanna, I listened to your podcast on building doors and I wanna be an audio engineer,"
Ugh,
um, what would you tell her?
I'd say, where do you live? Do you want a lesson?
Oh.
um, like having this conversation with you makes me want to like there's so many YouTube tutorials up there about, and they're all dudes, about how to do this and that, and they're super helpful. But like, what if there was one with me or this other person, or it makes me want to put out content that's
Yes.
that's visible as well. So I'd say get yourself the advice that I got was put yourself in a position where you're around an engineer or whatever you want to be doing who's really busy doing lots of different stuff, super busy, and like take out their trash and make sure that when you take out that trash, it's the best trash that anyone has ever fucking taken out. Take pride in every single little thing you do because that's the point. It's not like the trash. It's just like you want that fridge organized, all those labels are facing forward. They are perfect, and just like I don't know how little we're talking. Are we talking intern level? I mean, if it was a little girl, I would be like, let me find some audio, like some fun audio engineer, like games or something to see,
Oh,
to get you
yeah.
interested. Because I know those types of things existed, and I don't know what they are, but for
Yeah,
like
that's a great idea.
for the older generation, like the high school kids, get an internship, and it's not about kissing ass. It's about doing every single thing they ask you to do the best that anyone's ever done that thing.
Yep, and soak up everything like a sponge. Ask to sit in on an editing
Yes.
session.
Oh, totally. Be proactive. Be like, "Hey, I saw that so and so mixed the spot. Do you think that I could stay after and like try to mix it as well?" Like
Yes.
I mean that's what I did, and it and again, that wasn't like my brilliant idea. It was actually my cousin who worked for in like the Viacom world for a long time. She was like, "Get in there," and it served me well. And also, you don't know what you're doing until you're thrown into the deep end of the pool, and no one is sitting next to you, and you're just like, "I don't know how to do this." And then later, a few hours later, you're like, "I learned a thing, and it's
That's
that I
right.
suck. And I have to do this again," or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yep.
Awesome, that's awesome advice. So my last question that I ask every, guest is, what does your door to success look like? When you walk up to it, what does it look like? Describe the colors, the textures, the feels, and then when you open it, what's behind it?
Oh my God, Christy, this is so fucking sweet. What a brilliant idea and a way
Thank
to
you.
get local artists in. That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh, this is might be a different answer.
That's fine. I've had all different kinds of answers I've had. I mean,
The
yeah, it runs the gamut, and I've asked men this question on the podcast too, and we've had some
How dare
very
you, Christy?
I
How dare
know.
you?
How
I'm
dare I
just
have
kidding.
men on this podcast?
I'm just kidding. Okay, so my door just looks like a regular ass interior door, but like hanging from it, like in like comedy movies where like someone's like sneaking around a house and then they're trying to like someone just like and then like the person whose house they're sneaking around is home and they're like, "Oh God." And then they just like hang on the door
Yes,
and then
yes.
the door opens, the person opens it, but they're like
Oh,
hanging on the other
no.
side as if, you know what I mean? So
Is that
so
you? Is that your door?
here's what I'm imagining. Here's what I'm imagining. So there's like, okay, so like, let's say the first person is like my mom, right? So she's hanging on it, and the door doesn't open because there's not enough weight yet. And so then you toss up my sister on there, and then you toss up Beth on there, and then the door starts to pull open because these bitches are, you know what I mean?
So the
Holy,
door, it takes a lot to open this door.
yeah, the door is basically made of the women who have
Oh, that is
given me
beautiful.
a strong voice. And
Beautiful.
I mean, Yeah, and my
Beautiful.
mom and sister are really integral in that. Beth was less like, I mean, she wasn't not speak up for yourself, but my mom and my sister were like, I'm sorry, what? You didn't say anything? Give me 1 second. They march right back. It was like they're
Yeah.
getting shit done. And that's what I saw. And I was like, oh, that's just how it is. And I'm so
Uh-huh.
lucky because so many people don't get to see that. But yeah, so my door is made of human flesh, basically.
You know what? I think that is the first time we've heard that answer. Uh, but I think that it provides, even if no one's watching, but they're listening. I mean, that is the perfect description because I think we can all put people in our lives like that on our door. I think that we can all think of that teacher, that instructor, the
Yeah.
relative, the best friend,
Hmm.
that is on that door. And I think
Hmm.
it's absolutely, absolutely brilliant the way you described it. So thank you very much.
And that exec from the Watsons, she's hanging on there too, baby. She's like, you go in that door, you want to do voiceover? Go ahead. You want me to push record? Like she would swap. She'd be like, what do I push? And I'm like, just push the 3 on the keypad. You're good.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Joanna, thank you so much for joining me on the Building Doors podcast. I absolutely adore you and I love this conversation. I know a lot of people are going to walk away with tons of gems that you lay down. So thank you very much. And if you loved what you heard on this episode of the Building Doors podcast, please visit buymeacoffee.com/building doors and become a monthly subscriber. Your donations help defray the cost of the podcast as well as go towards supporting the mission of having more women's voices heard in rooms that they've never been heard before. Until next time, thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the Building Doors podcast. Want to hear more? Check out all our episodes at buildingdoorsvo.com/podcast and follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn at Building Doors VO. We'd love to hear from you, so call us on our 24/7 hotline at 216-307-1917 and leave us a voicemail with your thoughts. Do you want to support the podcast? Well, we love coffee. Buy us a cup through the link in the description or at buildingdoorsvo.com. Until next time, keep pushing forward, keep speaking up, and let's keep building doors together.